call them? Livings. Yeah, he purchased pulpits for guys, in other words, basically. When pulpits came free, he would see that evangelical young guys got those pulpits, and that way really spread evangelicalism. And then he became known by the East India Company as their most trusted advisor for chaplains. You couldn't be a missionary outside the compounds in India in those days, and so all the people who were called missionaries went as chaplains. Well, the East India Company for 30 years looked to Charles Simeon for all their recommendations. And so that was another way. But now there was here, I'm watching the clock and I realize we're over time. Maybe just a couple more.
Just a statement and then a question. I think one of the stories that focuses is explained so beautifully in Scripture was Jesus' conversation with Simon when he was illustrating, you remember, the person who had two debts, one who had a great debt and one who had a small debt. I think this, for me, would encapsulate the heart of his experience, because Jesus said to the woman, "Therefore I tell you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. But he who is forgiven little loves little."
Right.
And that raises the question that I wanted to share. I've often struggled, and I did early in my Christian experience. Why is it so difficult for us, raised in evangelical circles, to see our sin?
Is it harder for us than others?
I'm just asking.
I don't think it is, but it's still a good question, because my answer just leaps to mind is because of sin. Or Satan, who is the father of lies, and the essence of Satan and sin is deception. And thus, at the root of sin is the lie that it's not serious. And so it sort of carries its own explanation with it. Steve, and then that'll be all, maybe.
My understanding of that, in the portion of Simeon's life, was that he was very well received at Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
The funeral was a massive event and all that. Could you comment just about kind of how the tide maybe turned a little bit from this intense opposition to being well received and loved?
His character, at least the way the biographers talk about it, is that his character was just so unimpeachable, and his preaching so doctrinally impeccable, and carried so consistently what one called the force of truth. And his heart was so given to the poor in the area, and his integrity was so consistent that basically he either outlived or overcame prejudice. That was it. I chalk it up to patient, faithful doing of duty. There's so many quotes I wish I could have included where he says things that are so encouraging about not thinking big thoughts about impact, but being faithful to the duty in which you're called when you're surrounded by lions. Just getting up, knowing you have these duties to do, doing them with all your heart, and laying your head down with a sense of faithfulness, like Kent said, and pressing on in that year in and year out.
Thank you for listening to this message by John Piper, pastor for preaching at Bethlehem Baptist Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Feel free to make copies of this message to give to others, but please do not charge for those copies or alter the content in any way without permission. We invite you to visit Desiring God online at www.desiringgod.org. There you'll find hundreds of sermons, articles, radio broadcasts, and much more, all available to you at no charge. Our online store carries all of Pastor John's books, audio, and video resources. You can also stay up to date on what's new at Desiring God. Again, our website is www.desiringgod.org. Or call us toll-free at 1-888-346- 4700. Our mailing address is Desiring God, 2601 East Franklin Avenue, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55406. Desiring God exists to help you make God your treasure, because God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in Him.